Gentlemen, let me ask you something powerful. What happens when you go silent? Not out of spite, not out of manipulation, but because you finally choose your peace over confusion, your time over indecision, and your value over validation. The moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop overgiving, something fascinating begins to unfold. That's when the truth reveals itself, not just about her, but about you. Let's break down why silence is your sharpest weapon, your strongest test, and your most honest teacher. When you decide to pull back and stop talking, it creates a space that forces reality to surface. One of the first things you'll notice is whether she actually misses your presence or not. This isn't about playing games or testing anyone. This is about clarity. When you stop reaching out, when you stop initiating every conversation, and when you stop making all the effort, her response, or lack of one, reveals everything you need to know. If she values you, she'll notice your silence. She'll start to think about why you've gone quiet, what changed, and what she might be losing. She may start texting more, calling more, or asking what's going on. That's because someone who genuinely cares cannot ignore a sudden shift in connection. But if your silence is met with indifference, if she doesn't reach out, doesn't question your absence, or worse, seems relieved by it, then you've just received your answer. You were more invested than she was. And that truth, while uncomfortable, is liberating. It frees you from a one-sided effort and prevents you from continuing to pour energy into a situation that was never going to reciprocate it. Many men waste months, sometimes years, chasing after women who never really noticed their value. Silence shatters that illusion. It forces both parties to be honest. You learn quickly if you were a priority or just an option. And while it may hurt in the moment, it saves you from dragging yourself through confusion and self-doubt. Real interest doesn't vanish in silence. It grows curious, it leans in, it wants to reconnect. So if she doesn't move toward you when you move away, let that silence speak the truth. It's not rejection, it's redirection to something and someone better. When you stop talking, you take back a form of power that many men unknowingly give away: emotional validation. In many relationships or situationships, one person becomes the constant giver of attention, praise, reassurance, and emotional energy. When that person is you, and you suddenly stop speaking, it disrupts the emotional flow she's become accustomed to. It's not about manipulation. It's about resetting the imbalance. Women who are used to being constantly chased, complimented, and prioritized can become emotionally reliant on that dynamic. Your silence breaks that cycle. When you withdraw your words, she begins to feel the void. Not just the absence of your voice, but the absence of your presence, your interest, your approval. It makes her question what changed, why she's no longer the center of your energy. That internal questioning is powerful. It stirs curiosity, and curiosity leads to attention. You are no longer just a predictable presence. You're a mystery, and mystery commands respect. By staying quiet, you reframe the dynamic. You're not asking for her time, you're not begging for her affection, and you're not proving your worth. You're showing that your attention is earned, not freely handed out to anyone who doesn't reciprocate. That kind of restraint signals self-respect, and nothing is more attractive than a man who respects himself enough to walk away from being taken for granted. This kind of silence isn't passive. It's active discipline. It's refusing to feed a one-sided connection. If she starts reaching out, starts wondering, starts acting differently, it means your silence had impact. If she doesn't, it confirms you were only a convenience. Either way, you win. Because power is quiet, not loud. And when you stop talking, you start to speak volumes. When you stop talking, you give her the space to reflect on what she truly feels. Silence removes the distractions and the constant noise of conversation that often covers up the real emotional undercurrents. Without your words filling her phone, her mind, or her day, she starts to feel the weight of your absence. That absence creates contrast between what it felt like to have your presence consistently and what it feels like now without it. And that contrast forces her to confront emotions she might have been ignoring. In today's world, many people avoid emotions by staying busy, scrolling, chatting, entertaining themselves to avoid introspection. But when a man who was once consistent suddenly becomes silent, it disrupts that routine. It's a pause that demands internal dialogue. She may ask herself, did I do something wrong? Did I push him away? Do I even miss him? Those questions don't always come immediately, but they come. And when they do, she's not just thinking about your silence. She's feeling the meaning behind it. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a mirror. It reflects her choices, her behavior, and her level of emotional investment. If she truly valued you, but didn't show it, that reflection can stir regret. If she never truly cared, the silence won't matter, and that in itself is your answer. But if there was something real, even if she didn't express it clearly, your withdrawal will force her to recognize it. This quiet moment becomes a test. One where you've stopped pushing, stopped explaining, and started allowing reality to speak for itself. Whether she reaches out, reevaluates, or changes her actions, the silence you create becomes a powerful trigger for clarity. And clarity, even if it hurts, is what leads to truth. When you stop talking, you begin to regain control over your emotions and the dynamic of the relationship. Often men give away their power without realizing it, constantly initiating conversations, seeking validation, or trying to fix things that feel off. But silence is powerful because it shifts the energy. It allows you to step back and evaluate the situation without emotional noise. In that space, you start to see things more clearly, whether she genuinely values you, whether you were over-investing, and whether you were ignoring red flags for the sake of connection. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding your own worth and refusing to beg for attention. When a man pulls back and resists the urge to always be the one reaching out, he sends a message, not just to her, but to himself. That message is, I'm enough, with or without your approval. This shift in mindset is magnetic. Women can sense when a man is grounded and self-contained. That emotional detachment, not from caring but from chasing, changes the entire dynamic. It's also a test of her authenticity. If she was only responding out of convenience or boredom, your silence exposes that. But if there was depth to her interest, she'll feel the void and wonder why you're no longer there. She'll either step forward, trying to re-establish the connection, or she won't. And in either case, you win. You gain either clarity or confirmation, both of which move you forward. Ultimately, when you stop talking, you stop giving your power away. You stop trying to control the narrative and instead allow the truth to reveal itself. And in doing so, you begin to lead, not just the conversation, but the relationship dynamic itself. That quiet strength speaks louder than any words. When you stop talking, you give her the space to truly feel your absence, and that absence can say more than any message ever could. Most men are so focused on constant communication that they underestimate the impact of silence. But silence is a mirror. It reflects the reality of your value and the balance of effort in the relationship. When you remove your voice, your attention, and your emotional labor, she's left with the weight of your absence. That absence forces her to confront what she truly feels for you. This is the moment when realization can hit her. Realization of how much she depended on your presence, your energy, and your emotional availability. The contrast between your silence and the noise of daily life can highlight just how significant your role was in her world. Sometimes people don't appreciate something until it's no longer available. And when you step back, you allow her to experience that loss, not as punishment, but as truth. Silence also creates a psychological trigger. It activates curiosity and uncertainty. She begins to wonder why you've gone quiet, what you're thinking, and whether she misread the dynamic. That curiosity often turns into concern, and concern into longing. Suddenly, she starts noticing the void you left behind, and if there were genuine feelings there, she'll feel compelled to bridge the gap. But this only works if your silence is sincere. If it's a tactic, it'll feel hollow. If it's a boundary, rooted in self-respect, it becomes incredibly powerful. That's when she starts reevaluating how she treated you, what she might have taken for granted, and whether she really understood your worth. In many cases, the man who stops talking ends up being the one she remembers most, because silence, when used wisely, leaves the loudest impact. When you stop talking, you reclaim your personal power and reset the dynamic between you and her. Many men lose themselves in relationships by constantly seeking validation, approval, or attention through words. They over-explain, over-apologize, and over-pursue. But when you choose silence, especially after giving too much, you send a clear message. Your energy is no longer freely available. That shift forces her to reevaluate how she engages with you and whether she truly reciprocated your investment. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It's a demonstration of emotional control. It shows that you don't need to be constantly heard to feel secure. You don't need to chase, fix, or beg. This level of emotional detachment is often what separates high-value men from the rest. When a man can pull back without drama or resentment, it signals that his self-worth is not tied to anyone else's presence or approval. Ironically, the more detached and centered you are, the more magnetic you become. Women are drawn to confidence and mystery, two qualities that grow in the space you create with silence. When you stop talking, she starts listening to everything you've already said and done. The silence amplifies your past words and actions. It gives her room to process, to miss, and to realize your depth. This is also the space where your standards become clear. Without saying a word, you're communicating that you're not a man who tolerates inconsistency, disrespect, or emotional games. You're not trying to manipulate her with silence. You're simply preserving your energy for someone who values it. That's when the power dynamic flips. That's when you stop needing to prove yourself. And that's when she either steps up or fades into your past. Either way, you win your dignity back. So men, stop talking and watch what she does. Because her reaction will speak volumes louder than anything she's ever said.